Okay, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo's Road to Infinity War. Tonight, Dave and I will be talking about Ant-Man, the final film in Phase 2. And remember, if you like what you see, please subscribe, hit the like button, and tap the little bell so you're notified when new videos are up from us. Thank you.
So we'll start with performances. Paul Rudd, great job. It was almost like a Paul Rudd movie that happened to be a superhero movie.
It was another comic, like Chris Pratt, who bulked up for a superhero movie and was awesome.
Yeah, and you know what? I heard they didn't even ask him to bulk up. He just kind of did it on his own. Evangeline Lilly, of course. Michael Douglas. I think he's great Hank Pym.
He was awesome as Hank Pym.
Can't wait to see him again if they make another Ant-Man movie.
Yeah, if they ever do, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp or something.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Good, yeah. Corey Stoll was good. Really, everyone was great. But for me, Michael Pena was the best as Lewis. His stories, when he was telling a story, was just the best part of the movie to me.
Oh, the one at the end, it was so funny. And he said, yes, man. That was it.
Just the facts.
Yeah.
You know, I'm more of a neo-cubist.
It's like, no, wrong facts. Wrong details. I'm sorry.
Yes.
What's going on down there, Sam?
It's the Falcon.
I had a sensor trip, but I'm not seeing anything. Wait a sec.
What the hell are you doing?
Breach is an adult male who has some sort of shrinking tech.
Sorry. Oh, look, I'm sorry about this. Sorry.
That's enough!
Okay, the plot to Ant-Man. I loved it. Thought it was another solid outing for the MCU. Mm-hmm. You know, it was more of a heist movie. Well, it was a heist movie as a subgenre. So it's a superhero movie, but with a heist subgenre. And I really like that Marvel does that. You know, it's not just a superhero movie. They kind of intermingle other things in there. You know, you had like a space opera with Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, kind of a horror film if they ever make a Doctor Strange movie, perhaps, or more mystical. So they really branch out. And this one, I mean, it was just the perfect way to introduce Ant-Man into this movie with it being Scott Lang instead of Hank Pym. Yeah. They really worked it in well and really enjoyable. I loved it.
And I feel like Edgar Wright, he did I don't know if he came up with a story.
He did. He gets screenplay credit. He did write it, and then they kind of adapted some of his, but his was the basis for the movie.
Yeah, I feel like Edgar Wright movies, then you could definitely see his writing style in this movie. It was hilarious. It seemed like it was the first one that really focused on like being a little more lighthearted, you know, and all the cutaway scenes and the quick scenes and all the Michael Pena dialogue, good stuff. I liked everything about it. A friend of mine said he compared this to Deadpool and he liked this one better.
That's a tough choice. I like them both.
Yeah.
Might lean a little more towards Deadpool though.
Me too.
I'm gonna disintegrate you!
Claim disintegration by the Cure.
Other items of note and little trivia facts for this movie. I'm just going to go to your notes here just a little bit. You don't
have your glasses on. Would you like me to read them?
No, I got it. I
Okay.
can see. It's kind of. The very beginning of the movie, Haley Atwell is reprising her role as Agent Carter when they Stark tries to get him to give him the Pym particle, which he won't do because the way his wife ended up. Yeah.
And we see that S.H.I.E.L.D., they had already kind of taken it or tried to produce their own. And he kind of found out kind of how S.H.I.E.L.D. is. They'll do whatever they think is best for the world, whether people like it or not. And, you know, the guy who gets his head kind of slammed into the table by Hank Pym.
Oh, it was a punch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. But Mitchell Carson,
Yeah.
you know, he was in the comics and he was the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who was going to become the next Ant-Man until Eric O'Grady kind of stole the suit and became the irredeemable Ant-Man. So I thought having him in there was kind of a nice touch. You know, the Baskin-Robbins scene really cracked me up. You know, one, he gets fired, but the guy's kind of like, oh, you're kind of a hero, you know, and he goes, you know, if you,
Take a mango smoothie on the way out.
Yeah.
You know, I won't say anything.
I'll pretend not to see it. And he's actually walking with it,
Right.
like on his way out drinking it.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
And then Michael Pena, the next scene, this is, you know, man, Baskin Robbins always finds out, man.
But you also see his name tag said Jack while he was working there, which is probably a shout out to Jack Kirby, co-creator of Ant-Man.
Nice.
You know, we do see in the one scene with Darren Cross when they're in the lab, after he invites Hank Pym, he says, Tales to Astonish, and that was actually the comic book that Ant-Man debuted in. So, you know, they were throwing tons of stuff in here. Scott Lang's daughter, Cassie, actually becomes Stature in the comics, using the Pym particles to grow big. She can also grow small in the Stinger. And I don't know if they kind of threw her in there, thinking they might have a Young Avengers movie at some point, which would be very cool, Marvel. Please do so. But with the Fantastic Four and X-Men joining the MCU possibly here soon, maybe that's going to get pushed to the back burner, but I certainly don't hope so. We do see a sign for Pingle Dose, the soda from the Incredible Hulk that his blood went into, and people were getting gamma poisoning the Stan Lee cameo
Yeah.
from the Incredible Hulk.
Now here, if he is the Watcher, this goes back to then, you know, didn't he die in that movie from that?
I don't think he died, he just got really sick.
Okay.
And, you know, we see a couple scenes, you know, one at the beginning, Hank Pym not liking Dad Stark, but then, you know, he's talking about doesn't want to work when
With
he
the
goes, I think
Avengers.
our first thing should call the Avengers. He goes, if I wanted a Stark to be involved or whatever,
Yeah.
which is almost, you know, you can kind of see why Ant-Man would join maybe Cap's side if they ever had a civil war between some superheroes,
Right.
which we may talk about maybe next week. You never know.
You might. You never know.
And then when Scott first breaks into the house, you actually see the tank keychain that comes into play later
Mhm.
when they're escaping out of Pym particles or what the Cross experiment. By then, I don't know.
The Cross Industries.
Cross Industries,
Yes.
that's right. They're very cross.
Mm.
And then during that scene, the actual final fight scene, we do see Mitchell Carson taking the Cross Pym particle formula. So we don't know if that's going to come into play, if they have a sequel to this movie, maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think we already talked about would be a good title. It'd be
You never
nice.
know.
Maybe that's going to come into play somewhere. We know Ghost is going to be the main, could be the main villain. But maybe this is going to come into play as either him becoming like another Shrinky thing or who knows. But maybe they'll try to hunt it down.
Shrunky Dinks.
Shrunky Dinks, yes, thank you. And then, you know, they do talk about the quantum realm in this movie, which in Marvel Comics is the Microverse. But because Paramount has the film rights to the Micronauts, which is kind of using the Microverse name, they can't use it, which is sad because it'd be cool to see the Micronauts in a Marvel MCU movie. But once again, probably putting a little too much on for the MCU. And then we see one of the scenes I like, Garrett Morris from SNL has a cameo.
Yes.
Probably because he played Ant-Man in a
On-
sketch
yes.
way back in the day, which was hilarious. Look it up on YouTube
Yeah.
if you have not seen it. We do see a newspaper article with the headline, Who is to blame for Sokovia? I practiced that today so I'd get it right.
Nice job.
And, you know, Todd kind of hinting back to Age of Ultron and also leading into Civil War with the Sokovia Accords. And then, you know, we kind of talked about it earlier, but the Stan Lee cameo in the end Lewis monologue.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the Falcon looking for Ant-Man, and he's like, yeah, crazy, stupid fight.
Yeah, she is crazy, stupid fine. I love it when everybody's talking in the Michael Pena voice too, because you know that takes some real serious rehearsing, and especially the crazy, stupid fine girl when she you know jerks her head like that
Yeah.
when he's talking.
She's
That
doing
cracks
his-
me up.
She's doing his mannerism.
Yeah, it was good.
Fine. So this writer chick tells Ignacio, yo, I'm like a boss in the world of guerrilla journalism, and I got mad connects with the peeps behind the curtains, you know what I'm saying? Ignacio's like, for real? And she's like, yeah. You know what? I can't tell you who my contact is because he works with the Avengers. Oh, no. Yeah, and this dude sounds like a badass, man. Like, he comes up to him and says, yo, I'm looking for this dude who's new on the scene, who's like flashing this fresh tech, who's got like bomb moves, right? Who you got? She's like, well, we got everything nowadays. We got a guy who jumps, we got a guy who swings, we got a guy who crawls up the walls. You gotta be more specific. And he's like, I'm looking for a guy that shrinks. And I'm like, damn,
Okay, and now we're back with our post-credit scene, and we're going to talk about both of the post-credit scenes for Ant-Man. The first one being Hank finally gives in and gives Hope the Wasp suit.
Gives Hope some hope.
She does give Hope some hope. Well played, sir.
Thank you.
And which she's been not really begging for, but she thought she should have been Ant-Man and handled this, so it was really nice seeing that at the end, knowing that it could possibly lead into maybe an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie.
Yeah, and she could be, you know, since she's a more trained fighter, she can be more badass than him.
No, absolutely.
And she can fly. What'd you say?
I said absolutely.
Hmm.
And Ant-Man and the Wasp coming to a theater to you this summer.
What? Is that true?
It's true. I heard it. I read
happening?
it. Saw it on the interwebs.
That's
No,
awesome.
It's true.
Okay, and the second after credit scene is more like it's just a preview for Civil War. We were just saying, I can't believe, because of the way I'm spoiled now that you know, we get like 3 a year, that they only had 2, and they had you know, wait from July all the way into May of the next year. But that's how it was back then, back in the old days, you know. But but yeah, where he says I got a guy, and they were talking about the Accords in that, you know, in that video too, in the scene. And I know it didn't register with me. Like, I was like, what the heck was that? And it was just cool to see that all set up.
This is an advanced prototype that your mother and I worked on together. She never got to use it. But now I realize that we were working on it for you. Maybe it's time we finished it.
Maybe not. I know a guy.